This center panel, can you believe, is just clipped on, but after you've undone the clips, there will be obvious a couple of little almost hook-like things in there that keep the panel roughly in position while you're lining it up to put it back. At the moment, the head unit stays where it is, so we just need to pry this trim panel away from the dashboard, pull it in this direction, and then we can think about undoing the connectors for the switches and unhooking the side kind of retainers, can't think of a better word for them, and then that will just pull away. Because I'm going to need to lie it down on its face to do the multi-plugs, I've already put a cloth here on the gear selector so that I don't go scratching anything here. You'll have to just trust me on this. It is this easy. There's room to get a hand in underneath, and then you can just work your way around, pulling away the retaining clips. And there you can see the whole panel's loose, and the retaining arms here, you have to lift the panel upwards and then withdraw it to be able to get it away. There's one the same the other side, and it helps lining everything up when you're putting it back together. Okay, you can see these clips clearly now. So as you can see, we had to lift it up first of all to get it over this, and then we have to drop it down to get this hook to release. Now that it's free, I can just pull it, lie it down on here, undo the various wiring connections and tuck that away for the moment. I've labelled both cables as is my way, because once everything's pulled out and kind of pushed back in behind the dashboard, if there are any extra wires that aren't being used, the white labels that I put on stuff helps me to differentiate between what needs to be reconnected and what was never connected in the first place. So now with the first top 3 multi-plugs undone, you can see why the cloth, I can lean this on here without damaging either the control, gear lever control surfaces or the front on the dash, just while I undo the last of the connections in the back here, and then I'm ready to take the panel away for the moment. Now that I can see better behind here, this wiring loom that I labelled earlier before disconnecting, I've actually found just loops across to the other side, so I don't need to disconnect either end, which is good because this end is well buried, but it does mean obviously I can remove the redundant label from this one and carry on. There we go, that's the last of the wires disconnected, so I'm going to pop this away with all the other bits and keep going. Sadly, the 4 screws that hold the head unit on go through the plastic backing of the dash itself, so I'm going to have to take these 4 screws out, and then you can see that the head unit is also hanging on kind of help hooks. So yeah, I'm going to have to take the 4 screws out, get the head unit drawn forwards and undo the multi-plugs, and then we're okay. 4 screws are undone, so the head unit should just lift upwards slightly and draw this way, and then I can undo the various connections on the back. There's going to be a GPS antenna, radio antenna, and absolutely the multi-plug for the power and the speaker connections. Thankfully Nissan have left enough play on the cables that it's easy to pull forwards. So yeah, we've got a number of different connections just to undo on the back here. I'm going to label these just because it makes it easier to put them back in again. I'm also going to take a quick photograph, and then I've got a couple of references to come back to if the old fading memory lets me down. All the multi-plugs popped out nice and easily, so the head unit's now free. Just going to check in here, make sure there's no build-up of dirt in the back. Nothing that's obvious. I'm not going to need to worry about that like I did with the temperature sensor. So that I'm going to park. And then next up is the head unit. There's 4 screws and the 2 hangers that hold it in. But first we've got to get all the multi-plugs plugged back in at the back. Got to be very careful with these because they absolutely don't like being dropped or manhandled at all. The hangers are these plastic guides inside the dash panel, and it rests on those first to take the load while the screws go back in. The wiring for the head unit only goes back in one way and everything's color coded, so that's nice and easy. Now, having made sure that the wiring for the hazards and the lower sets of wiring for the switches on the dash display are all out of the way, it's literally just a case of feeding this back in, and then you can see it actually hangs from these clips each side, and then the 4 screws will go back in. Next up, it's the fascia panel. We've got the wiring already put to one side for the hazards at the top here, and then the controls for the heating and the menu buttons. Those are just ready to go back in. And then, as when we took it out, we need to hang it from these arms first of all to get it roughly into position, making sure the tubes for the ventilation will line up properly. And then when we're happy that it's all in good position, it just spring clips back in with these metal spring clips. And as with all the other plastic bits on the dash, a delicate fist in the 4 corners will make sure that all the fittings are lined up. And there we are,